Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to Enlightened Masculinity, episode 06. I'm joined with Akash Inti, and we got some exciting content for you today. We're going to almost sort of kind of pick it up from where we left off yesterday. So if you missed that episode, you can go back and check it, or, we'll get you what you need to know here and just kind of start anew. Every day's a new day, and I'm feeling especially masculine and especially enlightened today. And so I'm just really excited to be here. So before we really get going, I'd really love to check in with Akash, get on the same page with my brother, and go from there. So we're starting from the same starting point. So what's new with you in the last 24 hours? Anything?
Oh man, the last 24 hours have been absolutely crazy. Had options to hang out with like 6 girls over the past 24 hours, and that was one of the things that I wanted to get to today. I was panicking. I was like, oh man, I've got so many girls to hang out with right now. Who do I hang out with? And it's like, why are you making an issue out of this? One, but two, or one, this is a high quality problem to have, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
But two, it's like, why are you making an issue out of this? So we can get into some of those details and logistics later. But the larger point being is like, how do we come to making decisions? And I think that's something that could be of a lot of value to anyone of our listeners. Like, where does that come from? The second thing is I just got off the phone with my spiritual brother, Yuri, Science of Spiritual Growth. So we've been doing some private sessions between the two of us. Every day we'll talk for close to half an hour to 40 minutes. And we found that it raises both of our vibrations, and we just get vibing on such an incredible level. So I'm coming fresh off of that right now. So I'm feeling really, really connected, grounded, and excited to talk through some of the things that you have prepared as well today, brother.
Yeah, it's fascinating to vibe off each other. Two instruments in the same orchestra will amplify each other if they're in resonance, or they can mute each other if they're in dissonance. And somewhere in between is usually where most people are. To find that perfect harmony, is really a magical thing. So exciting. There were a couple of things. One, I had a question for you, but the first thing that I wanted to say before my question was to clarify something that I had said yesterday. And this had to do with, was talking about like the entry level for the standards as a guy for myself. These are, okay, so also I make more of a practice at the beginning of these broadcasts to say, these are my opinions. This is how I live my life. They're not up for debate because they're just my opinions. They're how I run my life. Take them or leave them. So in my opinion, entry level for a girl to just kind of get into my life somehow it's a low standard. Like you got to be somewhat intelligent, somewhat sense of humor, something going for you, take care of yourself in some way, have some help. Because I already know that I'm going to massively improve your life beyond your imagination. You don't even know like what's available. And so I'm not expecting her to be at like a super, super high level in her mind and in her spiritual development and all of these things. And so that being said, at some point, if I take a liking to her, which is something that I like about her, the main thing that I really, really like about her, and kind of, well, I'm sure we'll get to this, is how much does she like me? I don't really like girls that don't like me. I don't care how beautiful they are. If they don't like I'm just like turned off by that. I'm like, that's dumb. You've got to be dumb to not like me because I'm a really likable guy. I'm a really cool guy, and I got a lot of really valuable information, and I'm a fun guy. It's just I got a lot going for me. Like, I can get it if you don't want to like marry me, but if you don't even like me, like there's something wrong with you. And so immediately, if the girl doesn't like me, she just unqualified herself. And so that's kind of the clarification I wanted to add is that as long as I have the attraction for her, which is a very almost instant kind of thing as a guy, then at that point moving forward, she can really only unqualify herself. She can start behaving in ways that unqualifies her, that it removes her from the potential candidates of like getting deeper and deeper into my life. And that involves like her ability to follow. And there's going to be a back and forth, an interchange of energies. But ultimately, women date up, men date down. As long as she follows, I can take her to the highest heights that I can achieve, which I have yet to even find what that peak is. But I'm still climbing. Every day I'm climbing. I had amazing realizations last night, late night phone calls, and waking up this morning with some spiritual practice, teaching some cold weather yoga today. And it's just like I'm born again every day. I know that I keep growing every day and in measurable increments. So I know that I can take her with me because I've had a woman that's stayed by my side for almost 3 years now. And every day, with the exception of like hiccups, but overall, if you average like over a week or a month or whatever, it's just she's climbing. I know I can take a woman high. And so, but that takes her following because I'm not going to follow she's not, you lead from the front. I can't lead from the back. I can't take her to the top behind. You know what I'm saying? So as long as she has that capacity to follow, I can take her very far. And at that point, she can really only unqualify herself. And so that was me kind of detailing what I meant by the entry level is kind of low, but it's, you know, it's still got to match up to some values to continue on with me. And so I just kind of wanted to set the record straight for my own reputation because I said some things yesterday in my haste that, you know, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, brother, I think that is brilliance right there, in my opinion. There's so much gold that you said in the brief conversation that you just had here that, yeah, I feel it. You've distilled a lot of information. I think that has taken years for Vincent or Rosh to even get to this point and to even allow us to go higher in what we're doing. And so distilling some of this information in that manner right there is beautiful. Absolutely. Just so eloquent in the way that you had said it. So I really, really love it and appreciate it. So
Nice.
I'll turn it back to you if you have a couple discussion points. If not, I
Yeah.
have got a couple as well, so we can take it either way.
Yeah. You know, and I really like starting off the podcast with that, like, you know, a heavy and deep and powerful and potent theme, uh, you know, to really grab people's attention. And so staying on that vein of like potency, I'd really like to pick it up with you were talking about. I didn't inquire enough into your Taoist understandings yesterday. And how do I know this? Is because after the podcast, I was still thinking about it. And I was like, oh, that's like, there was opportunity to ask questions there, but I was distracted by some other story I was thinking about. And so you made this really, what I consider, in my opinion, a very extravagant claim about the potency of semen and the energy. I don't have the same vocabulary as you around it, but you know, the life force that's in the semen and how much of your metabolism and your you know, the energy of your life is imbued in your semen, and then this whole kind of philosophy and theology around like semen retention and how do you use it and whatever. And so I'm just really I wanted to kind of pry into that and see if I could extract maybe some layman's terms or some more colloquial understanding about this. Uh, so my question to you at this point is, what have you seen in your experience that has led you to the conclusion that semen is such a potent, you know, you said something like 60% of your life force is in your semen or something. I might be quoting. So basically on that, that's the question.
Yeah, I haven't gone back to the exact statistic, and I probably should at some point so that I can confirm to you guys that this is like science and it's not something that I'm just spewing bullshit right here. Nonetheless, a very large part of our energy that we consume goes to producing semen. Similarly, a very large portion of what um, women consume goes to producing egg cells. It's at the end of the day, we're here to reproduce. That's one of the big themes of life is survive and reproduce. So it goes to survival first. So you get all of your food and such energy to go forward. And then the second part's reproduction. And that takes a lot of energy to do. On the part of getting back to it, as I mentioned, like semen retention, I'd been studying I don't remember the name of the book right now, but I think it's Mantak Chia is the author. You can YouTube him. He's a very well-known Taoist, and he does a lot of philosophizing on male and female sexual practices, and he goes into some of the esoteric knowledge around that. As I was reading through the book, he talks. This is a lot of what he like lays out and talks through. Through my particular practice and such, I mean, it first allow me to first say that it's not an easy practice in the sense of, I mean, it's kind of like edging. You get to the edge and it's like, well, naturally your body just wants to go and ejaculate. But the discipline is realizing what's that point of no return. um, B, fighting the natural urge in some sense to let go of that, and to ejaculate. But in doing so, you are able to build a level of discipline that's unparalleled. I mean, it's the same way that Yogi Chris, I know you take a cold shower every day, and as I do myself. And it's when you do that, you bring yourself to higher level of discipline. It's like, well, no matter what, I'm going to be taking this cold shower, and this is just happening, you know? And it's
Mm.
similarly, like, it's that same type of thing. It's like, well, no matter what, I'm going to keep this within me. And it's the discipline of taking care of the self first and making sure that you have your own energy levels at the highest level as possible.
Mm.
Um, so getting to the practice itself, I mean, it could be anything from just masturbation. And I don't encourage doing this to porn, because I think if you're going to masturbate, do it to anything that you come up with in your mind, not with porn. Porn has killed a lot of sexuality in men these days, and I'd say that's where you start to practice with, is masturbation with the self. But then when you're with a partner, um, it's going slow. I mean, men today, I think, are programs to kind of think through that. You go through it quick, 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 quick. It's like, no, that's not how we do this. You, as I alluded to yesterday, is like, we are aware of our breath first when connecting with the woman. So feeling her breath, and taking some time with her breath, aligning to where is she, and getting an understanding of that. And Mantak Chia talks about how on her exhale, that's when the man goes in, and on her inhale, that's when the man goes out. And if you follow along with this, I mean, breaths aren't very, like, if depending on the person, some people are really breathing, and that's a very different place than if you're like, it's a very different, like, pace, you know? So it's
Yeah.
figuring out, where is your woman? Is her pace really in deep? You shouldn't be going fast then. You're not pacing well with her. You
Mm.
should be going slow at that point. But if she's going like, you can go faster, but it's being aware of this. Um, Getting to the larger point though, I mean, yeah, semen retention is very important to channel your energy. Again, like I mentioned, there's so much energy within that, and if you keep it within your own body, you're not expending that so easily, and it takes a lot of time to actually put all of that energy together. um, and so by conserving it, and as I mentioned, this is not an easy practice. I still fuck up with this, so I'm not claiming to be like the expert. I've simply found that the instances that where I've done this, I've been able to do things that seem unreasonable, staying up like sleeping 3 hours a night, or some such thing. So, or just having energy to do things that I didn't feel like I would have been able to otherwise. So, these are my personal experiences and practice, and again, opinions, like you mentioned, Chris. I think that's a very important thing to lay at the outset of these podcasts. And
Mm.
perhaps we do that a little bit more towards the beginning as well. But I'll turn it back to you if there's anything that you have.
Yeah. Well, it's super interesting. I don't know if you guys saw me turn it around, but my girlfriend here is doing some breathing. I was coaching her through some breathing while we're talking, and I really like the emphasis on the breath. It's a as you're talking, I can see it being a very non-verbal um, pace lead, or a non-verbal pacing her reality, or just a non-verbal just communing with her, but through non-verbally. So it's like a communication, but it's a breath communication. So as if there was a language to the breath, which there is. And so that's fascinating to me. Uh, I have a little experience with trying to retain semen, but not really studying too much about it, just minor things, just basically the concept of semen retention. And I know I wasn't doing it right. Sometimes I would have, you know, um, positive experiences. A lot of times they would be almost like agitation, like anger. Like I would do it, but then later there would be like I would be very irritable or something. There was definitely energy though, and I'm super curious. Uh, it seemed like the benefit. I'm curious about the benefits. Like, from my understanding, and maybe if you would add on to this or refine my understandings, that there's going to be more energy, like just for living. There's going to be maybe some realizations, maybe some experience of higher planes of existence that are happening right here that they're just superimposed. Because, I mean, anybody online, anybody of any intelligence, the modern human here, the modern man that has the internet available to them, you understand that there's a lot going on in the world that we just don't have the organs of perception to see. Like, we don't see X-rays, but we know they're there because of the effect they create. And that's only the last 100 years, but X-rays have been around for 15 billion years. We just didn't have the organs to see. We had to develop an instrument. So there's probably a lot happening right now, right where you are. Change nothing else around you. that you just don't have the perception of yet. And maybe potentially through the ecstatic experience of communing with somebody, that you can become perceptive of things that you, untold, like things like karma, karmic ties with somebody, cause and effects that are greatly displaced from where they occurred. You know, the effect is greatly displaced from where the cause took place, or other things. So is the purpose of this kind of practice, I know that it's appealing to a lot of guys, is the purpose of this for realizing higher planes of perception, of the energy benefits that you're talking about, of life prolongation, of, you know, why should a man, a modern mystic masculine man, be entertaining the idea of possible semen retention, other than the obvious of I can stay hard longer and so I can fuck her longer, which I guess is an important talking point also. But you know, what would you say? Like, what's the downside of not doing it, and what's the plus side of doing it?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, these are my particular experiences. I've found that when I've done it, it also conditions you to be the multi-orgasmic man. So you can, by doing this technique itself, you're able to separate ejaculation from orgasm. Which, I mean, come on, if you can orgasm multiple times while having sex with her, personally, it's like, why wouldn't you do it? In my opinion, it just feels better for yourself. And I've experienced this before. I've definitely had orgasm without ejaculation, and been able to sustain this and during sex, like a bit. I'm like, again, I don't claim to be an absolute master at this. I'm still practicing this, and practice means you still screw up. Getting back to the benefits though that you had mentioned, yeah, energy is one for sure. What you choose to do with this energy, I think, is probably the more important thing. So you'll realize as you practice this, you'll have a lot of energy, but then it's like, how are you channeling this? And you don't realize it at first. When you're at one level of energy, you're like, okay, this is blah, blah, blah. I've got this much. I need to sleep this much every day. I need to consume all of this. But then when you realize that you don't need to sleep as much, or you don't need to do these things as much, it's like, how do I spend that time? And it's really easy to spend it wasting it. It could be on video games. It could be watching TV. It could be whatever. But I don't think that's the point of these practices. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to get a lot of energy just so I can play a bunch of video games. You know, that's my personal opinion. I mean, maybe if you're going to become an expert at video games and you want to become a professional, that's, yeah, more power to you. I think it depends on knowing the self first there.
Would this practice help a person? Also, I'd say the Instagram video looks like it turned around. But would this practice help to know themselves so that they can make better discernment?
I think meditation is a better practice for that particularly. I'm not saying that you can't get to know yourself better either way. The Instagram, I'm not sure what's going on with my Instagram video right now, but it seems to be kind of funny. I will drop off of it and jump back on.
Okay, cool.
But
so
I'd say meditation is probably the best place to start there, though I'm sure you can continue to learn more about yourself. I have experienced higher levels of or what I come to believe are higher levels of consciousness through this technique. Is you do have a heightened sense of awareness, and there's been times where I've been able to see, I'll look up and I just, like, I feel like I have x-ray vision. I can see the cosmos, you know. And I talked to Catherine Allman, a tantrika, as that we both know, about this experience during the Evolution of Consciousness event, and she had confirmed this. She's like, yeah, it's incredible sometimes the things that you can see and perceive through heightened levels of or through like longer durations of sex, as it makes your body more aware of these things, and I'd say makes it more aware of some of these things that we may not be able to see, that our senses at present may not be able to see. So again, these are opinions, but I've found them to be confirmed through anecdotal evidence through others.
Yeah, and that's super rich. I'm going to add you to my Instagram here. I had a poll question, but this is just super rich, so maybe I'll save the poll question for the next podcast next weekend. because I think this is essential in my understanding. It's essential for me to understand: is there a actual what is the benefit of having these heightened or elevated like perceptions? You know, like it almost sounds like a drug trip. And is there a benefit to it, or is it just like you said, like it's pleasure, like being able to have multi orgasms? I mean, that's great. Um, like, of course, I love pleasure. I just want to see what is there, what benefit is there of the multi orgasm besides the pleasure, or what benefit is there of the heightened perception, like you were talking about with Catherine Oman, other than the pleasure? Is there another benefit besides the pleasure? Pleasure is a great benefit too. I mean, I want to have pleasure while I'm here on Earth. Um, but is there any other benefits that you could elucidate for us and enlighten all the masculines here and the feminines?
Yeah. So again, and I think we've gone over this multiple times, Chris. I don't claim to be enlightened. I think we continue to understand what does this mean. On the same token, I seek to share my experience with others, and I know the experience that I have is very unconventional.
Mm,
And so, in that sense, I feel like it may be enlightening to others.
yeah.
On the same token, um, getting towards your question, so yes, increased pleasure, I'd say, is one for sure. I think connection. It's a deeper level of connection that I've experienced
Mm,
with the individual, the partner that I'm with in the moment. In the sense of the tie between us afterwards is it's such a deep tie that it's you can't explain it with words. Again, I think we talked about this in one of the prior episodes that spirit doesn't communicate through words, or at least I don't believe so at this particular moment. Um, I think it attempts to, but it doesn't come from it doesn't come from a place of logic. It's not like, oh, spiritual logic works like this. Not the same thing. Similarly, how emotions don't communicate with through logic either. They're simply at different levels. Not to say that one is higher or lower, or one's better or worse. Simply different.
different. Yeah.
Um, and so I've noticed the tie that is incredible, and such a deep tie that between my partner and I. Third, I'd say the other thing that I've experienced through this is the ability to inspire my partner. As you had just mentioned, I think
Mm,
the man leads at the woman's pace, and this is Arash's saying. But it enables you. I mean, when you're able to give her such high levels of pleasure, it's like you're giving her, um, what do you say? It's like you're conditioning her in a way to act in a particular way. And so, as
mm.
you know, women, their sexuality is like endless. I mean, you could have been fucking her like 8 hours in the day, and she's still ready to continue to go for more. Like
If you do it
men,
right.
at some
If
point,
you
are
do
the
it right.
ones who need to stop. That's correct. That's exactly right.
She could quickly
And
you got to do it right.
and so it's in that sense, I mean, you will enable her to go to deeper and deeper levels of places by conditioning and disciplining yourself.
Yep. And
And so being able to give her that level of pleasures, you're able to inspire her to act in ways that align with her highest self as well. And I
wow.
don't know, if someone's doing something so disciplined and regimented every single day and they're following something, I mean, there needs to be some release in some sense, or some like trade for it. It's like, why are we doing all of this hard work for nothing? It's like, well, we're doing all this hard work for something. And I believe that that's where you implement a lot of these practices. It's that if you're not if you're not working with your woman to shape her into into her best version, and she's similarly doing the same thing to you. So I
Yes.
also want to make it clear that it's not that the man is always teaching everything to the woman. It's like there's masculine and feminine within each of us. There's a masculine within her that's teaching some feminine within us. So I'll pass it back to you, Chris.
That's
If there's anything
phenomenal.
else you have here.
Yeah, because there's so much, we almost opened more doors than we closed. And, what you were saying, there were a couple of things that you said that really struck a note. So I know we're going to be winding it down. We got a question from Donna on the Facebook, which I'll get to. And this idea of connection, there were three things that you said that you're not enlightened, but you spewed some nectar there. And one of those things was connection and how it facilitates a deeper connection. And immediately it reminded me of two tantric experiences I had had with two different women in my past that were specifically tantric. Well, three. Okay, I just thought of three. I'd love to talk about them one day because they're truly out of this world, like mystical, man. And, psychic, telepathic kind of experiences. And yet none of those, I want to make clear, none of those three compare to my relationship with my girlfriend now. That it's different. They were signposts that were pointing the way that there is something to be had there. But that's all. That's all it was to me. That's all it was to me. But they were great. It was beautiful. It's just like, all my drug trips in the past don't take away from my relationship now, but I'm still glad I had those experiences. Another thing you said was inspiring the woman. And when you started going into pleasure and how the pleasure opens her up to her, the higher levels that she can, of her, like divine levels, archetypes, and embodying different personalities or characters, like my girlfriend wrote on the wall here. Life is a game. Choose your character. Write your story. No one can live for you, and no one can die for you. That's what she wrote on the window. And guess who taught her that? So, like, pleasure, it seems to me to be the root of all opening. That pain is a contraction, and pleasure is an opening up. And to open up to new possibilities, they got to be pleasurable. And so I could see how pleasure, in this sense, can really open up a person's psyche and their emotions and their language and their mind to new possibilities. So I really appreciated that. I want to clarify one distinction, not to be argumentative or whatever, but for myself, it's rare that the woman teaches me things. There are some things like facts, like, if she has training in something, she teaches me that, like that. But as far as teaching me ways of being, I am shaped by women for sure. But I see it more as I teach myself because I refine myself to get the outcome that I'm wanting. So through her compliance or non-compliance, if I want her compliance, then I will change myself to get that. And in a way, if that's what we're considering teaching, then yes, for sure. But it's different than, let's say, if I was in a relationship with Catherine Oman, someone senior to me who is a tantrika, senior in age, that teach me a way of being that's in a higher alignment with some higher principles or something like this. That's an initial relationship I went through with women, and typically I did that because I was in want of their sex, and because when I found that I didn't need to do that to get the pleasure and the relationships that I wanted, I preferred a different dynamic. And so, I just wanted to kind of say that just so that, maybe there are different men that are listening or women, and just to give them a different point of view that, maybe they resonate with different ideas. So I'd love to read off Donna's comment. She's been a great participant. She views a lot of our podcasts. And so I'd love to get your take on her question, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. Donna Marie, she says, does she balance you out to allow you purpose for more spiritual growth? In other words, does she inspire you? So I'll answer that, and then I'll hand it over to Akash. Does she balance you out to allow, the last statement, I would say yes, she inspires me. She's got to inspire me. If she doesn't inspire me, then what the hell are we doing here? Like, on some level. And the level could be beauty. In a lot of ways, my girlfriend inspires me for business, because we have a very common purpose in yoga, and it's my purpose, and she just willingly adopts my purpose because she's very feminine, and she has a liking towards me in my mind, and so she, without much coaxing, just kind of molded her purpose to become my purpose. And so that's a sign of a girlfriend, right? If she just willingly, voluntarily does that, like, okay, I'll keep you around regardless of, okay, your body's aging and I'm accumulating more resources. I'm aging like wine and you're aging like milk. I'm still going to keep you around because, wow, I love my purpose. If you love my purpose too, let's join forces here and harmonize like an orchestra, make it bigger. And so definitely there's an inspiration element. In the first sentence, I agree with most of it. It's just this keyword I got to lock in on is allow. She doesn't allow me to do anything. There's nothing, and in a way it is like a male ego, like power kind of thing, but there is nothing that the woman allows me to do except in her pants, because I don't do that forcibly. So does she balance you out? I think there is definitely a balancing. And when I'm go days without being around women, I feel myself get more rigid, more brittle in a way, strong but fragile in a way. Women, they bring a balance. The feminine energy brings a balance to me that makes spiritual growth easier. Easier. It brings more fodder to my meditation. It brings more contentment. I'm less agitated by my libido, and um, and ultimately, in my belief, in my opinion, women, as a man, interacting with women is my primary motivation to be a better communicator. And it's not interacting with men. Communicating with men, it would just be do this, do that. Don't do it. Okay, you're not in my tribe. Let's fight it out. Let's have a war. Whoever's dominant, they lead, and you just follow. With women, it's persuasion, it's coaxing, it's seduction, it's communication, good communication. So I am very inspired and motivated to be a better communicator because of the feminine energy. And so that's how I would answer that. Akash, would you like me to repeat the question, or you just want to go for it?
Yeah, will you repeat the question, Chris?
Yes, she says, does she balance you out to allow purpose for more spiritual growth, to allow you purpose for more spiritual growth, to inspire you, in other words?
Yeah, so definitely inspires me. My path to beginning yoga came about through a beautiful woman. I went to my first yoga class, and I was like, wow, there's so many beautiful women here. Like, I love this place. And then I continued to practice more and more, and I realized how tough it was, but that they were always around and that they're still continuing to stay with it. I was like, there's something to this. Why are there so many beautiful women here? But this is such a difficult thing to do. And it inspired me to stay there, really. I don't, I mean, I think if it was a bunch of dudes, I'd be like, all right, guys, sorry, I'm out of here. Because it's like, I don't know, there was so much beauty there that I was like, I loved it. And as I continue to deepen my practice, and do things that I had never been able to do, I can see that I mutually inspire the women in this class. They'll see me, I can Chris for close to 2 minutes, almost 2.5 minutes.
Wow.
And I'll do this in class. And after class, women will literally come up to me and they'll just be like, that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life. They'll, um, they're just in awe. You can hear some of them like giggle while I'm doing this at the end of class. And it's incredible. So yes, I really do believe women inspire the best in men. When women hold themselves to the highest standard and follow men who have continued to push themselves and take the human race to higher levels in terms of being, understanding, communication, they're able to inspire other men around them to rise to these levels. And they mutually inspire the men who've taught them these things. And so in that particular manner, I think, beauty is what inspires men in many ways. We allude to a lot of these types of concepts in masonry, actually. And it's absolutely incredible how much women are able to keep us on our path. When she says allow in this context, I don't think of it in the sense of like she's allowing me to, I don't know, go to the game or something like that with my friends. You know, I'm thinking of it allow as in the sense of kind of open, if that makes sense. That's the way I was reading that particular word. But yeah, I deep appreciation for this question, because I think it's a very rich question, and there's a lot that it unpacks within the two of us. So
Totally. And I know personally Donna, she's taken many workshops with me and hosted for many events, and very smart businesswoman, and been married for a long time. A great guy. And, so thanks for the question, Donna. And so we're going to wrap it up. I almost wanted to unpack. You said something that I wanted to unpack, but we want to keep these podcasts, tight. And so I'll save it for the next time. I got some great content for the next talk. We might need to do more talks. If you guys like to talk, then join our private Facebook group where we give private value, free value, on weekdays. The Facebook group is called Rising Suns. That's plural suns, 2 words, Rising Suns. Or you can just send us a message if you have any difficulty finding it. Send us a message if you got questions that you want included on the podcast. We do this noon every Saturday and Sunday. What's up, Nelia? Every Saturday and Sunday is noon for about 45 minutes. We'll do this broadcast. The recordings go up on YouTube. They also go up on all the podcast channels, Podomatic, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. You choose your poison. And, definitely give us a rating on those. If you listen to it, if you like the podcast, give us a review. That helps us get discovered more. And, we're all about spreading the message because there just aren't enough masculine yoga male leaders. I was just talking about it with one of my students, and he was asking me what inspired you to go to India and who were your teachers and this and that. And I was looking for a guy that handled situations in a certain way, and I just wasn't finding it in the yoga community until I found one guy that kind of sort of did it the way that kind of sort of resonated with me, and that was the best I found. And his yoga healed me. His personality is I'm not super resonating with, but his yoga healed me. And, so I took what healed me, and the rest, I have other teachers for those subjects. So definitely join the Rising Suns. And any last words, Akash?
Yogi Chris, I think the only thing I want to say, and this is one of the 7 universal truths that I've learned during my yoga teacher training. And I'll leave you guys with one today, and maybe I'll continue to cycle through this. But you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Poignant pause there. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And yeah, any argument to that is definitely going to cause some suffering. You're definitely where you're supposed to be. And if you're watching this now, listening to this now, then definitely double so. You're exactly where you're supposed to be because you're hearing what you got to be hearing right now. It's all for a higher purpose. That's defined by you. I love it. And so let's close it out. And I'd love to hear one of these ohms. Will you ohm for us? Namaste, everyone. See you next episode.